8:23 p.m., Thursday, November 4, 1982.
1982, I was sitting in my office in the Ministry of Mines and Energy, and I got a call from the Secretary of Minister of State, Samuel Ebua. And she said, come for a ministerial meeting at 6 p.m. And I said to her, ministerial meeting? She said yes. And I said, that's unusual. I don't have a dossier for that.
You mean that should be November 4, right?
Thursday, November 4.
Okay.
So she said, no, there is a meeting and you don't need a dossier. So we went to the presidency, to the new presidency.
The Unity Palace?
Yes, because before then we used to have the ministerial meetings in the old presidency.
Which is today the National Museum.
Absolutely. So we went to the presidency, and when we arrived there were people in the meeting room. So we waited outside. And after some time, we were kept asking each other, I remember, what is the problem?
Some
we
guesswork.
Don't have a file. No, but no one had the
idea of what was going on.
Idea of what would happen. So a team left there. That is the CNU, Central Committee.
The Politburo of the CNU.
Yes, and I noticed, which was unusual, that a lady was crying. So I asked myself, what must it be about? But immediately they left, we came in. So we went into the cabinet room, the room where we usually had ministerial meetings. And the president came in and said, I have decided to resign. My health is not very good, and I will be going away. And the constitutional successor is going to take over on Saturday. So the resignation becomes effective Saturday.
Camerounaises, Camerounais, mes chers compatriotes, j'ai décidé de démissionner de mes fonctions de président de la République unie du Cameroun.
He said, but he's decided with the Central Committee of the CNU that the Prime Minister would also be in charge of the party while he's away. And then he thanked us for having accepted to work in his government, because if you were not for us, he couldn't have done the things he did. And then thanked us, we stood up, and he shook hands with everybody, and we left.
The unexpected, peacefully expected. President Amadou Ahidjo resigns in a radio-only delivered address to the nation with complete constitutional considerations.
Do you solemnly swear before God and man to devote all your efforts to preserving, protecting, and defending the Constitution and the laws of the United Republic of Cameroon, to watch over the common will of the nation, and to uphold and defend the unity, integrity, and independence of the Cameroon fatherland? I do so swear.
At 10 a.m. on Saturday, November 6, 1982, Paul Biya takes the oath of office before a 150 National Assembly membered house.
The president, actually, I can say he was chosen by God to be the president of this country, given the fact that we've gone through so many difficulties in this country, but we've always come out from such difficulties. And we can't come out of such difficulties without having a man like our president.
I've known President Biya for a very long time, for more than 40 years. First of all, as a junior officer in the Secretariat of the Presidency, where he was the Minister of State, Secretary General of the Presidency. At that level, I noticed that he is leader of a team, respecting all opinions, but also a leader who liked that files be treated rigorously.
I was appointed Vice Minister on the 30th of June, 1975. And coincidentally, I was appointed Prime Minister on the 30th of June, 2009. Somebody did ask me, and I said I didn't think there was anything particular about the 30th of June.
So you are just telling me not to ask that question?
Well, because I can't answer, I don't think there's an answer.
Okay.
So I met him, I met him on Saturday, the 28th of June. I came from Biya on his instruction, and I went to his home, which is opposite Garnison. That's where he lived. I came there, and he received me, and he was very nice to me, and he served me a Coca-Cola, and we conversed for, I think it must have been something like 2 hours. And afterwards, he was very nice and drove me to Hotel du Député.
He drove you?
Yes.
Okay.
He was very nice.
Okay.
And we entered a 504 black. I remember that very well. And he was the driver, the only two of us in the car. So he took me to Hotel du Député and left me there. He went away, came back, and had a short meeting with me. Then I stayed there. The following day, I returned to Biya, and on the 30th of June, I was made Vice Minister.
Aged 49, at the time of assuming the Supreme Magistracy, Paul Biya styles his new administration as the New Deal.
President Paul Biya has always shown exceptional leadership qualities. And I would say from a personal perspective, he's a man who has shown qualities of being stoic, resilient, a man who prefers dialogue, a man who prefers diplomacy, a man who prefers sometimes to take his time. And unfortunately, his opponents have sometimes misunderstood or underestimated his actions.
When I became a member of his government, I also noticed that he is really a democrat, respecting the principle of democracy. When multipartyism returned in our country, he allowed free expression of opinions.
The change of power is in a well-defined context. Paul Biya, an experienced administrator, outlines a new territorial map for the country from 7 to 10 provinces, later regions, to evenly set a new agenda for Cameroon.
Right from the time he became head of state, his first outing was in Bamenda, just to mark this unity between the English-speaking and the French-speaking parts of the country. And the whole of this action, you can see that there has been no discrimination in everything that he has been doing.
We cannot talk of this without looking at the peace and stability that we are all enjoying in Cameroon, because it is from peace, this peace and the unity, that all other developmental aspects come together to build up the nation Cameroon.
A graduate of Cameroonian and Western educational classrooms, the new president banked on his secretly known skills to shape the taste of what he intends Cameroon to look like under him.
The first thing is peace. That he's been able to, for 42 years, rule the country in such a way that there's peace. The territorial integrity of Cameroon is intact. It is something that he should be praised for, because many other countries have been looking for this peace, they could not find this peace.
The President, Paul Biya, is a lover of peace, unity, and prosperity of all Cameroonians. That is what he has been doing for the past 42 years.
The first major political task performed to date with exceptionally arranged talent is the maintenance of national unity and peace.
We go way back in the early years of his presidency with his policy on liberalization, which I think has been the leitmotif of his legacy, of his mandate, of his policies. Is the driving force behind his policies, the whole issue of liberalization. At the back of it, we have national concord, the quest to respect and recognize individual liberties, respect and recognize community specificities and exceptionalities, but in a manner such that the state, our nation state, is preserved, is guaranteed, and is preserved and is protected.
National unity in this country is something we need to hold really dear, given the fact that in a country like ours, with about 250-something languages, different tribes, it is always very difficult to unite these tribes. But our president has done so much to see that there is peace, there is unity in this country. We really do appreciate and love him for being our president.
To achieve the much desired national concord in a country with plus 250 ethnicities spread in 4 cultural zones today, Paul Biya embarks on a charter of liberties for his people, who were just 7 million when he became president.
Before President Biya, we had a country where you had a unique one-party system. You had a country where you only had just one newspaper, which is the Cameroon Tribune in those days. You had a country where you could not, we have to recognize it, you could not say what you want, the way you want, where you want, and when you want it. People sometimes, most of them had to hide, to say some few things.
Just the fact that we can, in the Cameroon of today, sit. You just need to watch television on Sundays and listen to all the talk shows on television, the topics discussed, to realize that at least the space to discuss those things exist. I am also old enough to remember at a certain time when a certain kind of discussion, even in family circles, especially political or sensitive issues, was always met by a hush. Nobody had to talk about them. So at least in that aspect, if I don't have to extend to others, We as Cameroonians can sit today and say what we think is right or wrong about our country, about our leaders, about the president himself. I don't think I remember somebody ever having been jailed on instruction of the president because he went on TV and criticized the president. That achievement of the freedom of expression, which is directly combined to a diversification in our media landscape, with all the different organs we have, radio, television, and otherwise, to me is something, if I had two things to retain about the president, and I think nobody should dispute. One is that he safeguarded our territorial integrity through diplomatic means and saved thousands of lives, because I think a conflict with Nigeria and Bakassi would certainly have lasted for long, drained resources, drained human lives. One. Two, he permitted us as Cameroonians to have the liberty to say what was on our minds. If you want to know how important it is, let somebody just tell you to shut up when you feel something important that you want to say and you can't say. Then you can realize how important what it is that the president has done for it. For me, those are the two things.
As you know, in 1990, the whole continent of Africa was faced by one, I would say, threat of democracy. And most of countries, some countries were reluctant to mute into democracy. And even in the party of the president, the ruling party, as you know, I'm a member of that party. I was one of the responsible people in that party at the high level. We were not favorable to democracy, to the change. We thought that our people were not ready yet to exercise their right to democracy, to liberty. And as you recall, you remember, we had a Congress in those days. And although a lot of our militants could not imagine that the president will take a decision asking us to be ready to face competition. In that Congress, he announced solemnly that his fellow militants should prepare to go to competition.
Peace first is a fundamental aspect in all society, and Cameroon being a country that is made up of diverse cultures, it's not easy to unite all these cultures together, to speak as one person, to do their activities as one person. So we understand that bringing them together first, to be together in unity is one aspect, and being together in unity means that they have to be that peace and serenity amongst the people.
It is only in an atmosphere of peace and solidarity that we can plan for the future of our children and for a prosperous Cameroon.
From that year, 1990, we entered into pluralism with all the consequences, the advantages, you see, the effects, so many press organs, online press.
About 600 newspapers?
About 600, 100 television, and more than 20 radio, plus community radio.
200.
200. So I think since then, you could ascertain the fact that people are free to say what they want.
Enshrined in his master publication, Communal Liberalism Years Later, the freedom agenda was formalized by the Law on Social Communication, the Cameroonian Glasnost, and Perestroika.
Today we have what we call a support to the private press, which was not the case in those days. It is not yet up to what you journalists are looking for, but I think it is quite appreciable. And I'm trying to make all my best that we increase the amount of money that is put at the disposal of journalists.
Peace is very essential. You can see that even the restive situation in the northwest and southwest regions, he's been able to try to manage it in such a way that it doesn't spill to other regions, and trying to do it in such a way that the population of the northwest and southwest can stay in security. That's why he focuses on these regions that have problems, and even the far north.
Politically speaking, President Paul Biya brought about democracy, multipartism. President Paul Biya has brought about certain liberties which do not exist before. We can see it from the 1990 law on association and freedom of speech and expression.
We had decided to have the National Council of Communication, CNC, whose mission is not to sanction necessarily, systematically, press organs, journalists. But I would say, from what I can see, the decisions which are once in a while taken by the president of that council, I think it is more pedagogical. It is much more a way of recalling the principles, the ethics, and the deontology of a journalist, rather than really sanction people or sending them to jail. I don't think there's any journalist who has been sent to jail by that council, by that board. I don't think so. So it is just there to regulate. And I would say I would wish, the wish which is my wish as the means of communication, is to put aside all the rules and let journalists themselves regulate their milieu by what we call auto-regulation.
Giving expression to individuals, giving expression to communities, be they ethnic communities, religious communities, social groups, in the whole spirit of liberalization, opening this public space, which creates concord, which creates the national discourse, which creates a sense of belonging to one another, but all that in a manner of in presenting being a nation state. Of course, we have what follows after, the laws of 1990 on the liberties of association, the Constitution, most recently in its amendments, Constitution of 2008, which was amended. We have Articles 15, 16, and 25 of the preamble, which guarantees these freedoms and which actually are the bedrock of a state of national concord in a country, a mosaic nature of a mosaic country like ours.
Transformed as a decentralized unitary state where rigor and moralization dictate political thought for people emancipation. Paul Biya anchors any major national political movement on the premise of dialogue to wave off challenges like the abortive military takeover in 1984, the political upheavals of the early 1990s in the northwest and southwest regions, plus terrorism in the far north region of the country.
You know, the president knows the history of this country to his fingertips. When you look at when the president visited Buya, he made mention of Buya was the capital of German Cameroon. Buya was the capital of this. The president knows everything. And when you look at his speech that he gave in Biya, it is a speech of someone who is at the helm of the country, of someone who knows what he is doing. He recognizes the fact that this place has a lot of history as far as this country is concerned, and he made mention of that. What more can we say than to thank the president for everything he's doing? Wish him to continue in that aspect. When you look at our people trying to distort history, trying to change the way the country is, the unity of this country, as the Constitution says, we are one and indivisible. Yes. So the president is merely stating what the Constitution says, what our forefathers came together and decided.
I have not seen any act posed by the head of state which is against national concord. So I can affirm without any doubt that he has been always fighting for the unity of this country, for the peace in this country, for the security of this country, and all the reforms that he has undertaken go towards that goal.
He was open-minded, open to all different opinions, freely expressed and respected. That's why I can here say, as a leader of a political party, that really democracy is in full expression in our country, thanks to the Democrat that we have as the President of the Republic, Paul Biya.
May God give many, many other years to continue the hard work you are doing as a great gift that God gave to us.
To translate the principles of rigor and moralization in public comportment, Paul Biya asks each and every one to embrace good governance through the incessant battle against corruption.
He leaves no stone unturned when it gets to good governance, transparency. He wants that whatever the government has put into the budget should trickle down to where it is supposed to be, should trickle down to the citizen. And anything short of that is embezzlement. Any short of that, and he leaves no stone unturned to punish embezzlement. And that is, as the head of this institution, he's my boss, from whom I take instructions and to whom I render accounts. He makes sure we fight corruption, we fight embezzlement, and we fight anything that has to do with that stands on the way of good governance. Because what he wants is good governance, transparency, accountability. That is what he expects of us, and that is what we've been trying to do so that there is good governance in Cameroon.
Since the President Paul Biya, many things have changed in this country, in the judiciary. The first is institutional. That is to say, at the beginning, we had Court of First Instance, Court of Appeal, Supreme Court. Just that. But with President Paul Biya, now we have all these courts. But beside these courts, we have a Tribunal Criminel Special, which exists in the country, which did not exist before. And there is the account, the Chamber of Accounts at the Supreme Court. This is new too. It is from Paul Biya that exists. This is new, and we have the section in the Supreme Court, the section of common law, which did not exist before. And now we can have jurisdiction for all Cameroonians at the Supreme Court here.
Trained and equipped with skills and tools for justice as a measurement for social cohesion, President Paul Biya has fostered the growth of an independent judiciary with comprehensive reforms for a dual system, English and French.
You know that there are texts too, legal texts, that is laws. You have laws. The Criminal Procedure Code of 2005, which is new in the country, which now provides, which has provisions taken from French-speaking system, from the English-speaking system, to do one. And in Cameroon, it is a very great innovation. Since in the world, there is no other innovation like this one. Very innovative, so that every Cameroonian know that this country, in this country, law has taken at his convenience. Law can be said at his convenience, and he knows the law.
It is not only Consupe alone that works for good governance, that fights for good governance. There are other institutions, and we collaborate with them, because the head of state, it is a prime objective of him that there should be good governance in his country.
Common law exists, and it is applied. We have the common law system here at the Supreme Court. And you know that at ENAM, there are people who are trained to apply common law. They are there, they exist. Less than 10 years that this system exists there. Common law exists, it is applied. But what we should know is that Cameroon is an independent country. We cannot consider that we will continue ever and ever to talk about laws which are imported, French law, English law. It is time we speak of Cameroonian law. And in Cameroonian law, there are so many dispositions which exist, which are taken from our land, which concern Cameroonian, which are applicable to us, which we must consider as our law. Because something you should know, that Latin people were saying, law, to every people it's law. To every people it's law. That is to say, you should have the law you merit, the law you know, the law which is applicable to you.
One of the highest tools used by the president over the past 42 years and so to maintain peace and national unity is the Cameroonian military, the People's Soldiers, whose 50th anniversary was held in Bamenda in 2010, chaired by the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces himself, President Paul Biya.
These 50 years of stability and peace have taught us a wonderful lesson. Peace and stability are preconditions of political, economic, and social development. I am confident that you will continue to respect national institutions because citizens and the state must work together in order to build a prosperous nation. Nation building requires patience, courage, and determination.
We have a particular context with the economic crisis and so many threats which begin to appear, so that it was necessary to make something. And I want to notice that many countries which have not done this reform as in a particular situation of delinquencies. So President Paul Biya has chosen to make this renovation because of the many dynamic of strategic and many difficulties which have been there at this point of the time.
To make the military meet the exigencies of the current 21st century with refined national and global standards, the professionalization of the military became imperative, materialized by the 2001 reforms, which greatly brought in a new dawn.
This reform is very important, and it has three particular items. The first is the professionalism. No, the first is the renovation.
Modernization.
Yes, and the professionalization and the equipment of forces.
Cameroon is also playing a very key role in terms of capacity and peace building in the MINUSCA, as we said in French, and some other areas in the past where our troops, Darfur, where our troops have been always very, very appreciated for the qualification in order to bring peace in the MINUSCA. We have a contingent of military officers and troops in Central Africa to maintain peace, stability, and security, not only in that country, but also in the whole sub-region.
The outstanding victories of the military are their health participation in international peacekeeping missions, like in the Central African Republic, the maintenance of territorial integrity, and an efficient defeat of terrorism in the far north region through the able leadership of the Commander-in-Chief, to whom the military pledges their absolute honor and fidelity for the defense of the fatherland.
We are a great country, one people, one nation, one prosperous future. Do not be afraid of the future. Together, we will succeed and become an emergent nation. We must learn to see the coming decades as sources of hope and numerous aspirations. I promise you that in our program of national development, no region, division, subdivision, or village will be forgotten. My objective is to give hope to every person in our nation.
It is an example of the unity because the compositions of the defense forces are mixed. Okay, and so we don't know if you have Bamileke, Eondo, Bassa in. You just work for your country and to the defense of the integrity of the country.
An accomplished diplomat through the constitutional powers conferred on him. One of the greatest areas of achievement of the Biya Years is in the foreign policy domain, where he has guaranteed the territorial sovereignty of the country.
Our nation is bilingual, English and French, and is therefore fertile ground for American investors. Our two governments have signed an agreement on the reciprocal protection of investments, which will certainly encourage them. Assistance from the American government has been of great help to us, particularly in the fields of agriculture, education, and health. We do appreciate the contribution of the United States to our social life and hope that the number of cultural exchange programs will increase.
The three main pillars of Biya's diplomacy are based on the preservation and the protection of our sovereignty, and secondly, to make sure that Cameroon should never interfere, non-interference in any country's domestic affairs. And also the third pillar, I did say it, is the settlement of conflicts, any different or any conflict between countries by dialogue and respect. So it is based on these three pillars that the President of the Republic has really articulated his own and main objective in diplomacy.
Today, an unbeatable example of a peacefully ended border difference between two countries, the Cameroon-Nigeria affair over Bakassi, is classical in peace studies.
Before I came to the scene, Nigeria and Cameroon could not resolve the issue. And Cameroon had gone to the ICJ, International Court of Justice. That was the stage I came in as elected president. Nigeria has gone to defend the case, and I inherited that. Well, whatever I could do will continue to take lawyers and defend, because we are there already. But we also try to find out from the colonial masters on all sides, the Germans, the French, and the British. None of them gave us joy that we will get what we think we wanted. Anyway, as it turned out, the International Court of Justice pronounced the verdict. But before the verdict was pronounced, may the soul of Kofi Annan rest in peace, Kofi Annan called both of us, President Paul Biya and myself, and said, look, you are two brothers, and I'm your brother. Let us agree one thing. Whatever may be the outcome of this at the ICJ, both of you should agree to accept it. And I said, look, on our own side, since we have gone to defend the case in court, whatever emerged as the outcome, we will accept. And President Paul Biya said the same thing. It turned out that the verdict was in favor of Cameroon. Well, there are some people in Nigeria who felt that we should not obey the verdict of the ICJ since we were occupying about, I think, over 2/3 of Bakassi. Their view is that hold what you are occupying. And I don't believe that.
Bakassi problem is one of the file which nowadays is a testimony of how Cameroon is a wise country, a country of dignity, a country of law through its president. Because as you remember, when there was this crisis between Nigeria and Cameroon, many of our compatriots were really urging the president to raise the army and to go to war against Nigeria. But based on his wisdom, the president did say that this matter can only be settled by law. And he took the matter to the International Court of Justice in order to make sure that the position of Cameroon is a position of equity, position of law and justice. And finally, we won the case. We won it when the decision was taken at the Green Tree settlement body, and finally Cameroon gained the protection of its land, its sovereignty, and the integrity of our territory.
The foreign policy cardinals of the country are rooted in the notions of respect for the sovereignty of states, non-interference in the internal affairs of other nations, and international solidarity.
First, in the South-Central region, where the president is giving more focus on 3 or 4 elements. One, we said a good neighborhood relation between the country of the Central African sub-region. Dialogue, peace, and development, and also what we call solidarity in the major issues which concern a Central sub-region. On this issue, Cameroon is playing a very active and dynamic role in ECAS and also in the CEMAC organization.
The positioning of Cameroonians in international organizations as a measure for quality human resources speaks of the efficiency of the country's diplomatic credentials. People like Issa Hayatou, who became the first and only African to be the president of the Federation of International Football Association FIFA, Philemon Yang as the president of the United Nations General Assembly, amongst others, have all had the support of the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, personally.
We are doing what we call the campaign to have our compatriots, many of them be appointed in various positions, various posts in the international public service, either at the United Nations, the AU, and some very old,
The political mutations program for a modernized Cameroon is accompanied by an economic prosperity doctrine to better the lives of the people of Cameroon.
The banking sector has witnessed a lot of metamorphosis in the past 7 years. That is why you see that the number of banks have moved from around 17 to about 24 or 25, if my memory is correct. And this is the effort, I think, to see how we can take the banking services can be taken closer to the people. Because in an economy where you're hoping to stimulate growth and bring in structural transformation, especially in terms of accessibility to financial resources, it is very important that financial services should be taken closer to the people. The reforms include reducing the difficulties, in terms of accessibility to credit and finances. You see that there's been a lot of reforms with respect to the minimum banking services that banks are required to offer to the citizen, especially when it comes to retail banking, which simply means that there are services that banks offer that the ordinary client to the bank is not supposed to pay for the services. For example, access to financial statements, access to a card, a Visa card, or a debit card. These amongst are some of the services that
are available to the population, which is a function of the reforms that have been carried out within the sector.
The first major step for economic prosperity was the creation of an enabling capital market through liberalization for direct foreign capital market giants to see Cameroon as a good risk.
It was really a great honor and privilege, to have met Mr. President, His Excellency. We had a lot of sort of conversation in terms of our investment in Cameroon and our investments in Africa generally, and also he decorated me with the National Honor Grand National of Values. So that one actually translated into asking us, what investments are we making today in Africa, and what are we going to continue to do in Cameroon. But he was really very, very encouraging, encouraging me to continue to do what we are doing all over Africa. So it was really a great meeting.
United Bank for Africa likes to support small, medium-scale enterprises, like to support government to provide infrastructure for social and economic development of countries. And since we operate in Cameroon as one of the 20 countries in Africa we operate in, I thought it was a good time of the year to come, sit down with your presidency, and see what more UBA can do to help the country drive its economic and social agenda. And of course, as the CEO, as the founder of the Tony Elumelu Foundation, it helps to connect the dot. I like to see our young entrepreneurs. I like to sit down with government and push for the enabling environment and conditions that will help young African entrepreneurs to do well. So it was, again, one of the agenda items for my meeting at presidency today.
In Cameroon, as you know, first of all, we have now group-wide 52,000. In cement, we have over 31,000 people working for us. In Cameroon, we are now doing only cement. As you know, that all our businesses, we do in Nigeria, the one that we do outside Nigeria is only cement business. And that's why we are in almost 17 countries. But in Cameroon, we're also looking for other opportunities, of which to start exporting porcelain from here to Nigeria and most likely gypsum. We're looking at those opportunities. We're also looking at the opportunity of agriculture here, and also the other area where we're deeply looking into is the gas-based industries. Cameroon has a lot of gas reserves, but it has not been tapped. And that is the kind of opportunity we are looking for. We are looking for that kind of opportunity. So I've discussed this with Mr. President extensively, and he encouraged me that we should continue to talk to their own, to talk to their government and see how they could help in getting us, some of these, gas. And we'll set up some gas-based industries, either petrochemicals or urea plants.
Cameroon is like second home to me. Cameroon is like second home to the UBA group and the wider Exodus group. That is why, as you said, the Tony Elumelu Foundation will support about 700 Cameroonians, young Cameroonian men and women, each of the nearly 700, 678, each of them getting non-refundable seed capital of $5,000, each of them being trained, we'll call it a 12-week MBA, each of them being appointed mentors to help mentor them, to help them succeed in business. We do this because we see Cameroon and the young men and women of Cameroon, we see them as holding a strong future for our continent. So talking about investment, we already, through the Tony Elumelu Foundation, are investing in Cameroon. On the business level, United Bank for Africa, we have over 20 branches in Cameroon and still expanding. One of the conversations I had today at the presidency is the issue of head office a regional head office for Central Region, Central Africa, here in Cameroon.
One of the target sectors to ensure food security is agriculture, with an irreversible modernization policy of the agrarian environment, with the organization of agro-pastoral shows and the transformation of the Cameroon Development Corporation, the second largest employer after the state.
You know that the second generation agriculture aim at increase the productivity and the production in agriculture, increase the income of rural farmers, and implement the mechanization in agriculture. You know that to implement the mechanization in agriculture, we need to boost the emergence of large or medium exploitation in agriculture. So we are working with the Ministry of Land Tenure to give access to land to private sector so that they can come with financial resources to favorite the emergence of large or medium exploitation, and especially to help or support the small-scale farmers to increase their productivity and their income.
The agricultural policy has had results which include the production of 5 million tons of cassava, Cameroon becoming amongst the 10 first producers globally, 3 million tons of plantains, Cameroon becoming the 3rd world producer, and 3 million tons of palm oil, the 7th world producer.
To increase the productivity, we need improved seed or seedling, we need fertilizer, we need good practices in agriculture. So we are putting in place all the measures to help the small farmers to, practice this good practice for farming and to use fertilizer in order to increase their productivity. About mechanization, you know that the head of state have allowed the Ministry of Economy to buy 1,000 tractors, which has been assembled in Ebolova. Now we receive again 230 tractors, and we receive some caterpillars to construct farm-to-market roads in order to give access to the market for the farmers in rural area.
As you know, today, Cameroon does not longer import chicken, eggs, and also pork meat. This is the major achievement, as you know, of the import substitution policy implemented by the head of state. These products are exported to other countries.
Our country has about 7 million arable hectares land. 7 million. So we have the potential. We have young people, so we have the what we can say the human force to produce.
The economic arithmetics for wealth creation has greatly passed through major reforms in the banking, enterprises sectors, and the National Promotion Investment Agency.
There has been a streamline and clear identification of what is a public enterprise and what is a public establishment. in 2019, 2 decrees were signed by the head of state, which clearly defined what a public enterprise is and what a public establishment is. But most importantly, in the second decree of 2019, it's moving the enterprises, the public enterprise establishment, from a normal functioning public establishment to a more structured and profit-oriented public establishments and enterprises, which means that, you know, the dependence on subvention was greatly reduced. The increase in proficiency and efficiency in the management of public enterprises was also adjusted. But what we are really looking at is to see how these enterprises can start producing results positively.
From the economic perspective, President Paul Biya brought in a lot of reforms. We have the structural adjustment plans, we have the liberalization, and also inviting the private sector. Under Paul Biya, the private sector has grown immensely. We have seen a lot of infrastructure. We have seen a lot of structures that have permitted the economy to be diversified.
Today, the National Development Strategy to make Cameroon an emerging nation by 2035 anchors the hopes of the entire country and generations, and its full implementation for a positive economic impact is estimated at 8,000 billion CFA francs.
If we take from a fiscal perspective, you see that there's been a lot of defiscalization. A lot of fiscal bricks have been given to encourage key sectors of the economy. Today we are talking about import substitution, and import substitution simply means that the vision of government has moved from depending largely on imports to local production. And in this vision and strategy, one of the things that is being done is to make sure that, you know, these key areas are almost defiscalized, or they are given tax breaks. So if you are interested to do business within some of the key sectors, definitely you are going to witness a tax break. There's a one-stop shop that has been created to accelerate the process of creating new enterprises. I mean, you go, it's 3 days. Once you have the requisite documents, there's a total reduction in terms of bureaucracy. So you can quickly, you know, see how you can set this up. Taxes are not paid for some key areas. I mean, once you open a new company or a new enterprise, you have a minimum of, I think, 2 years that you go without paying taxes. There's an online declaration system which facilitates and ease, you know, the declaration of taxes, and greatly reduces the challenges that were brought by governance in the sector.
To improve the quality of life, the government has invested hugely in urban development and the provision of other social amenities.
Through the 10,000 housing and 50 space for construction impulsed by the head of state, we have got 1,675 low-cost housing transfer to the population. We have got also the program with the cooperation with China, 1,520 low-cost housing for Douala and Yaoundé, who has been completed. We have got also the 600 housing coming from the 3 years Planet programs, who has been built in the main city capitals. We think about Bolova, we think about Bafoussam, we think about Douala, Bertoua, Ngaoundéré, and the 200 low-cost housing for the Southwest and Northwest. We are about to relaunch after the meeting we've got with the MPs of the Northwest, who are ready to support at the local level to complete also this 200 low-cost housing for their population.
I think that there's a national urban development policy that has been put in place, which shows the intention, you know, for government to decongest and see how they can rationalize the occupation of space. This can be further amplified by the creation of ministries. You know, we have the Ministry of Urban Development, we have the Ministry of Habitat or something like that. And you see that at the level of the councils, I mean, a lot of reforms have been done to make sure that urbanization is taken into as a serious challenge.
We are now working with private sectors also, because the government cannot build at the place of private or civil society. We are working with PNHJ for 3,000 low-cost housing in Olembe, as well as working with ADOA for another 3,000 low-cost housing, who will bring us to go up to 10,000 with these private sectors. The motor taxi people has not been left behind, as wished by the head of state. We are now building with the Association of Motors from Douala, with Crédit Foncier, FECOM, and CVUC, a plan for new cities owned by the motor taxi of Douala. After the 134 low-cost housing for them, we'll do the same in Bafoussam. We are working actually with the city mayor to do the same in Bafoussam, to do the same in Gawa, in Mawa, in the main city capitals, to support these people who also need low-cost housing.
The key areas of national life, like health, tourism, and education, have been given special attention.
Today we have just 1,800 megawatt capacity production. In 1982, we had only less than 1,000 megawatt. I think that we have a lot of progress to do, because the forecast demand is growing 10% per annum.
A country with a free primary school cycle for 20 years plus now, Cameroon has one of the highest literacy rates in Africa and in the world, where education is the closest public good to the population nationwide.
Before he came to power, there was just the one state university, which I attended. But by the time I went to school and came back, there were already the University of Biya. Later on, he created other state universities. At the present time, we have at least 11 state universities all over the country. Each region has one state university. And the fact that he opened up this area to the private sector, there are many private higher institutions in the country, because the demand for higher education is very high. And so he gave the latitude for private sector to open up universities, but backed by state universities. So you cannot have a degree from a private university which is not backed by a state university. Apart from that, let's look at basic education, for instance. He offered free education to every child in this country. Now he's insisting on inclusive education, so every child is counted. And he has made sure that training continues for teachers, so as to get them prepared to teach children who have differences. The idea that every child has a right to education is propounded and supported by the head of state.
I have decided to create the University of
When he came to power, we did not have up to 10,000 secondary schools, but today we can count over 19,000 basic education primary schools and nursery schools. We have each year over 6 million pupils in our schools, and every year it only grows. This year we are close to 7,000 pupils in our primary schools. He also has encouraged the idea of giving assistance to these schools, and the idea of decentralization also has helped to make sure that our schools at the level of the subdivisions are controlled. Recruitment will be done by the councils, and funding will be sent to the councils to be able to do that. Infrastructural repairs will be done at the level of the councils. The ministry will simply supervise to ensure that the money that goes there is really being used. I mean, the head of state has such a love for this country.
The president has done so much as far as education is concerned in this country. We coming from the English-speaking part of the country, we have the University of Biya, we have the University of Bamenda, which is something really great. Some regions in this country, I think, might not have even a single university. But the Northwest has a university, the Southwest has a university. That shows the love the president has for youths to be educated in this country. The universities are up to standards. When you look at them, they are building, putting on new buildings every day, sending lecturers, recruiting, most of every year.
You are saying you are a product of one of them.
Exactly. I graduated from the University of Bamenda, and now I am here in Yaoundé, still schooling. So the president has done so much. He has done so much. The last time, that it should be 2016, 2017 or so, he provided laptops. Imagine, for the whole thousands and thousands of students. That means that's someone who really shows concern as far as education is concerned in this country.
It is inevitable to applaud the president for what he has done with regards to education in Cameroon because, first of all, from the region which I originated, we did not have a university, a state university. But today we can boast of the University of Bamenda, which has many other branches, and this bringing the education, bringing the institution closer to the people means he has a lot that he cares about the people of Bamenda.
There is hardly a time that an international meeting on education and the advancement of education, especially with the emergence of IT and AI in education, technological development of education is paramount, and he encourages us to attend these conferences, come back with information, write the report to him, and see how he helps to generate these technological development in our schools. I want to say that he has done a lot, he continues to do a lot, and I think the onus is now on us to take what he has offered and use them for the benefit of Cameroonians so that they can all feel the impact of his stewardship.
Through the decentralization policy, governance has completely been handed to the local people to directly manage their communities.
The context in which decentralization was adopted in the 1996 Constitution, after the turbulent 1990s and all debates on what kind of state was ideal for all Cameroonians to feel comfortable and that will guarantee the development and the progress of Cameroon. The decentralization model seems to have, if we hearken back to the 90s, been a choice that has permitted Cameroon to survive as a decentralized unitary state up to now. Because if we take from 1996 to present day, the country is still up and standing and strong. I think that between 1990 to 1996, when this constitution was adopted, the debate, the persons who took part in this debate, I am not sure that they could have guaranteed the survival of Cameroon, given all the centrifugal and all kinds of forces that were dragging us in every direction at the time. So decentralization seems to have been that option that has gained us time and permitted us to consolidate national unity, to maintain Cameroon as a one and indivisible country.
That's a key mission that we've been assigned by the President of the Republic. And as soon as we took over office, which we did in 2017, we went to Biya first, then we went to Bamenda, and people thought we were crazy to go to those two regions. At that time, it was very hot. It was like a mission impossible. but we did it, and we gathered some facts which we brought back and submitted a report with our own ideas, recommendations to the head of state. For example, taking seriously the promotion of bilingualism, which is, of course, one of our assignments. And as you know, a major law came out of it, passed by Parliament in 2019. And with that law, we think it's good for social cohesion, good for cementing national unity. We've also been fighting against hate speech, which is a terrible thing which we've seen in social media. We used to know that Cameroonians were people of peace, who were tolerant, understanding towards one another. But in the last few years, there's been a rise in hate speech. And so we worked along with others to see whether legislation could be improved or taken to combat hate speech.
The greatest political realization is liberalization of the national life. Liberalization of the economy, of the political life, of the media, of of education, and liberalization of social activities, cultural activities, everything. That's one of his greatest achievements. And the second is the reform of the state, because we have moved from an centralized unitary state to a decentralized unitary state with a special status for the regions of Northwest and Southwest, to take into consideration their historical trajectory and their specificities.
I think that governing also requires a certain participation of all the segments of the society. From the unitary state as it was to the decentralized unitary state, increase the space for participation from the bottom up through empowering regional and local authorities, through increasing the influence of the grassroots population in the choice of their leaders and regional and local authorities, through the transfer of certain powers and resources needed to impact directly the lives of the population at a local level, so that if the population has greater influence in the choice of its leaders that have a direct impact on their life, if these leaders have the powers to exercise on these domains or areas that directly impact the population, by conclusion, it is that you have created the space for the people to participate in their governance. You have increased their control of the people governing them. And in so doing, you are putting in place a key mechanism of performance, which is the power to sanction through an election the people in government. So as a tool of governance, decentralization seems to have brought in this new dimension, which is the power of the people and an obligation to their leaders to perform because they are answerable to the people.
President Paul Biya has brought in a lot of freedoms, a lot of liberalization, and I will just use his book of 1987 in which he said that he was all about a communal liberalization of the country.
We should not look at the school in a restrictive way only as a tool of training. The school is first of all a guarantee of performance by regional and local authorities. Because what is the underlying factor in decentralization? It is so that regional and local authorities can develop a country. That's why it's decentralization and local development. I am of those who believe that a centralized state will not develop a country. Decentralization can. It can because regional and local authorities can be a powerful engine of development. But for them to play their part as a powerful engine of development, they need to be able to perform. Perform in the sense that you give them more resources, you give them more powers, you give them greater importance. If there are no people at that level to harness these powers and exercise them in a competent manner, there is no guarantee of success. That is where the school comes in. The school comes in to train the human resources to build the capacity needed so that regional and local authorities can perform their function. In performing their function, they play their own role in the development of the country. And if they do so well, then what is the final objective? It is development. It is for people to feel fine. When people are fine and they think that the country is going well, and they think that there is something in it for them, their conditions are good, why, what reason would they have not to like their country? And in that context and in that, from that appreciation, the school becomes a strategic tool that the head of state put in place as one of the levers to guarantee the success of the decentralization process.
Youth and women, who constitute the majority of the population, have received one of the greatest attentions of the President's Power Program.
In 2006, the African Youth Charter is put in place. African Youth Charter, which is, I would say, a legal freedom framework which guides how youth ought to be engaged and involved in governance issues in our different countries, respective countries. And I would like you to, I want to underscore that of all the African countries, just 38 have ratified African Youth Charter, of which Cameroon is one. And one of the mechanisms to put this legal framework into being is the putting in place of national councils. Yet again, of 38 countries that have ratified African Youth Charter, not all the 38 have put in place national councils. Cameroon is one of the few, still by the will of the head of state, to really get the youth fully involved, fully engaged in national discourse and in governance issues. Of course, our National Council model, I would like to say it's even one of the models that's being used as an example on the continent, because even of the few countries who have put in national councils in their countries, the model which Cameroon has is an exceptional model, which gives some kind of semi-autonomy to the youth in managing their affairs. So I think that alone demonstrates the head of state's will, and I would say his elan towards the youth and getting the youth on board as partners in development, as partners in running the states of the state, the affairs of the state, in their own way, bringing their own contribution, bringing their own meaningful contribution through a structured organization as a youth council.
From a purely human resource perspective, from my experience, both from my previous professional experience where I worked before I became Director General, the tendency that cannot be disputed is that more and more at key decision-making levels of our country, we have younger and younger people. It is not visible at first sight because they may not be in those exposed positions where everybody sees them. But especially in public service, if you go to our ministries, right up to the presidency of the Republic, if you look at the people who are in positions of responsibility, be they attachés, chargés de missions, technical advisors, directors in ministry, a very significant number is relatively young. And so I think that the engine of our administrative decision-making process now is most certainly powered by young people. Not visible maybe, but the engine. And I use the word engine because if you drive a car, the most important part of your car is the engine. And so if you have a good engine, you have a good car. And I think that the president has permitted Cameroon to develop a good engine. Inevitably, because we have a good engine, we have a good car. Some other parts of the car may be giving us trouble. There's a tire that gets worn out, we will change the tire. A light bulb gets blown out, we will change the bulb. But the engine is fine. And because the engine is fine, we are not very worried because we have a good engine. And I think for the foreseeable future, we can trust our engine.
The various youth programs coordinated by the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Civic Education attest to the idea of an express will by the government and the President of the Republic to personally channel needed resources for their empowerment.
The President has always given an outreach to the youth. We can see it from the different youth programs. We can see the different programs that have been put in place to reduce youth unemployment. We have seen the various recruitments that he brought in to reduce this unemployment. We have seen the different structures that have been put in place to not only promote youth empowerment, and we have also seen his various speeches, which he does regularly to inform the youths that we are the future, and the future starts now, and the youths have to be ambitious, and they have to take their destinies in their hands.
The purpose of training today, vocational training, first of all, to empower you, to give you the skill and the handcraft which will enable you to settle yourself in a self-employment and to become an entrepreneurship. Just this is the mindset of those who provide this teaching, this training in a nation like ours. The modern nature bestow on our nation.
The president has done a lot, and we need to applaud it, and we need to support him in his vision. People might have their diverse ideas, but what happens? The president of the republic, who is the chief executive, doesn't create jobs. The government doesn't create jobs. What does the government do? The president, with all what he has been able to do, has created a serene environment for the private sector to take advantage of. But lots of people don't do that. But those of us who are the generals in his vision are taking great advantage of this, and we are doing business and moving forward.
The same energy is pumped for the emancipation of women in and out of the country.
The promotion of women is really a priority for the head of state, because it's not only me. You can look around. During the New Deal, women are promoted to very strategic positions. You have senators, you have general managers, you have, even in the army, very critical positions. And the number of women ministers I cannot name. It means that the head of state, during the New Deal, he needs the women to be at ease and to demonstrate that in Cameroon, women and men, when they are competent, can achieve the same goal.
We can see even the way he has uplifted women until some of us are in the government. In times past, you could have one lady in the government, but now we have about 11 of us in the government. In the National Assembly, I can't even say how many women are there. In the in the Senate, I cannot even say how many posts of responsibilities, decision-making positions women occupy. And so he has brought the woman to the limelight. Politically, that's a very big achievement, because you can see that some of those things that women do, they do it so perfectly.
I'm the produce of the head of state. I'm the creation of the head of state. Because to give a testimony I've said that living together that the head of state is prescribing every day is the first person to implement this. Because when he put me in school in a sec, I was 25 years, 24, 25 years. I was not from the South region. I was not from his family. But the head of state is the one who promotes the best practice.
For me personally, I recognize that I can be like a showcase of this promotion of women because I've been the first woman general manager of an administration like custom. I think that I've done my best to develop and modernize these administrations, and outside the country and internationally, it has been recognized. And then the head of state go on and have confidence in me and think that I can be the Minister of Post and Telecommunications, a strategic key sector like this. I'm also the first woman Minister of Post and Telecommunications. It means that for our head of state, there is no limit. Women and men, when competent, it can give them some strategic position. And I think that we need to be grateful and recognize what he has done, because in some other countries, I had a testimony that to promote women, according to Beijing Convention, they can make them deputy general managers and so on. But in Cameroon, the head of state have confidence in the capacity and the leadership of women. And we need to encourage and salute this way of seeing things.
We should all come together as one people to build this country, Cameroon, and to see that we live in peace.
Talking about his vision on women, he's the person who brings women to be at the local level as much as they are today. When we entered local level as mayor, there were 7 female mayors. After, with the prescription of the president, national president of CPDM, we came up to 14. After 34. That means the head of state is following to make sure that SDGs 5, leaving woman behind, leaving no woman behind, is a true. He practices it every day.
Transport, energy, and other key sectors of national life have been transformed equally with the recent construction of dams like Lompanga, Nachtigal, hydro-making.
For the past 42 years, what have we achieved in the road sector? I would like to say that we are open 121,873 kilometers of route. In 1982, we had 55 kilometers of road, 55,000 kilometers of road. This very important linear of route comes because the head of state wants his people to remain connected to each other by road. Because the head of state would like those who are investing to have a possibility to exchange, to move from one point to another, to move from the production point to the commercialization point.
If you look at the Uri Bridge, which used to be a headache, it has been opened, and these are big investments, which means that goods and services could actually drive to the southwest region, could actually drive to the western region, could actually drive to the northwest region, and vice versa. So you have actually opened this, and things which actually leave some of these regions which are agriculturally high can actually leave this region, these different regions, and then pass through Douala and then go to different countries like Chad, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, and the rest. Because of the bridge. Because of the bridge.
There are 4 international airports, 9 regional airports, including the one in Bamenda Bafut, 3 seaports, including the one in Limbe and the Limbe Petroleum Yard.
Road safety measures have reduced road accidents from 3,500 to 1,800, and deaths from 1,500 to about 600.
In the 1982, we had 1,330 kilometers of route tar. Today, we have 10,273 kilometers of route tar. Our main concern today is not whether we have open route or not. No, we have open route, but we have to work hard for the state of those open route to remain in a way we can easily circulate, be they F route or tar route. To illustrate what I'm saying, you have this section of two route, Bamenda, Batibo, Manfe, Ekok. It's a tar route with this bridge constructed over the river, cross river. You have Cameroon open to Nigeria, which is a very important market. You have this section of the route, Kumbo Bamenda, which has been tar. You have Mawa, Mora, tar, Mawa, Bogota. You have Yaoundé, Bafoussam, tar. You have Mengon, Samilima, tar. Let me indicate clearly that you can move from Yaoundé to Brazzaville on a tar route, because we recently tar the section of the route Samilima, Wesso, because the head of state would like the population, to remain connected. They would like the population to have the opportunity to commercialize their product either in Cameroon or out of Cameroon.
The intention is aimed at making life better for Cameroon with potable water, amongst others, as part of the project.
Kumbamanfe is tar. Kumbamanfe is tar, and there is small section there for which we are working now with the Central African Development Bank. That section of 9 kilometers, which was not tar because of terrorist activities, they are coming for us to complete the tarring of that section. So we have many projects we have done. You have this section Ntui till Tibati, with this important bridge on the Sanaga River, which has been tarred already. We can quote many examples to illustrate what we are saying. We moved from 1,330 kilometers to 10,234 in December 2024. Next year, by January 2025, we will be delivering other section of tar route.
He had a lot of projects that have been put in Adamawa. Road projects. I don't want to forget. The bauxite of Minimartam, who recently signed. The convention was signed. It's going to employ thousands of Adamawa people. That is on economic, social, the hospitals. I cannot come back on it. But on peace building, because it is not always considered. It's very important, because there's nothing you can do without peace.
That is why we have already put down a strategy concerning every route. The strategy is defined to help the project owner, mayors, chairman of the region, minister of public works, to respect the strategy, in order for the every route to be durable. Because we happen to realize that when we have work on an air route and rains comes, immediately there is no other route. So we have defined a strategy to make the air route more durable, at least 5 years.
The modernization of public institutions, including the new National Assembly complex in Yaoundé, has been accompanied by the modernization of social services to improve the quality of services and life across the country.
We are very happy because we have been waiting for this for many years, since the last incident we have here in 2017. Every MP were looking for where and how to get the new way. Now that this new building is there, I think it is a very big satisfaction. And as Cameroonian, I can say this is a very great achievement for the President Paul Biya have done for his countrymen. And then we have just to greet him, to say thank you to President Paul Biya, because this is a very important part of Chinese and Cameroon cooperation, and the main organizer of the cooperation is President Paul Biya. All the thanks is for him. So with the new hemicycle, we have about 520 places. If you have Congress, that means the meeting of the Senate and the National Assembly, we will not have problem again. And if the new elect president of the Republic is coming to swear in, the place will be sufficient to have all the part, that means Senate, National Assembly, Supreme Court, Constitutional Court. Yes, and then I think we will not have a problem, and the government too will have the place to sit. So I think that this is a futuring building. We are doing it for the new generation. We are not doing it just for us.
Today, the decentralization policy is viewed as the right governance philosophy to make most ordinary Cameroonians the real power broker in the concert of leadership.
That Bakwasope approach was designed to be a touristic site. I went there with the then representative of the African Development Bank. He did approve our proposal and the construction started. Unfortunately, this terrorism came, but we didn't stop it since the situation is cooling down. That is the only viaduct we have in this country, constructed in that aspect, constructed to become a touristic site. We have other bridges constructed in this country. I have quoted the case of the bridge over Cross River. I can also quote the bridge over River Logon, that's in the north, in the far north. We have the bridge constructed on Mayo Limani, still in the north. We have a bridge to be constructed on the Thames, in the southwest, and the Com in the south. But we have also this program on constructing steel bridge with steel in bridge with what this company, this American company Across has already delivered. Now we are working with some Cameroonian company to create the condition for the bridge to be installed, because the section has been delivered. Is now to join the section in and install the bridge. 8 companies are working for that purpose. It's just unfortunate that because of the the excessive raining situation and the limit on the financial possibility, they can't move at the speed we would like them to move, but they are going on.
This is taking place in the implementation of the will of the head of state, who from now onwards made it a compulsory, an obligation to transform our rural center, what we call SAR, into vocational training. We have as many as 288 in our nation. The instruction given by the head of state, which is being implemented by the government under my own responsibility, because in my capacity as Minister of Employment and Vocational Training, I am the government engineer in the domain of vocational training.
The entertainment industry has blossomed over the years, making Cameroon one of the greatest exporters of music, sports, and literary works in Africa and the rest of the world.
You gave President Biya a nice-shirted outfit, and you said that this is not Messi, this is where transfer. If we had to transfer President Biya to Chelsea or from how much is it going to cost to FIFA or the transfer season?
I told him that his transfer will probably bankrupt FIFA. So. Top scorer, President Biya. No, we had a very good meeting with President Biya, and he is now part officially of the FIFA team.
Absolutely.
Abega, en dribble, sur rabat au centre, Abega. Abega, toujours. Abega, Mila, Abega, le but!
Un seul mot, continuez.
The football industry in particular has marketed the country from the state-of-the-art stadia, like the ones on your screen now, to the exceptional performance of the national football team, making the country the first in Africa to play the quarterfinals of the World Cup.
Et qui donne l'avantage au Cameroun.
Although the Biya years have been marked by severe challenges which taint partially the work done, just one word to qualify the era: the years of progress are yet to be over.